Welcome back, boys and girls. Third graders, we're going to be looking at rounding. We're going to be reviewing today's lesson that we covered in class, and also I know that this will help you a lot in tonight's homework. We're going to be looking at topic 2.4, so I hope that you have your Cornell notes open and also your math workbook to topic 2.4. So we're going to be rounding, boys and girls, to the nearest 10, hundredths, and also to the nearest thousands place in tonight's homework. Our goals, boys and girls, is to be able to round to the nearest 10, to be able to round to the nearest 100, and you will be able to round to the nearest 1,000. Remember we talked about today in class rounding, boys and girls. It just means simply to replace an exact number with another one that is close to it in value and easier to use. Let me give you an example. Like 52 is very close to 50, and it's easier to work with numbers that have zeros, like 50, 40, 30. So we want to sometimes do an estimate. We talked about an estimate last week, where you want to get really close to a number that's easier to work with. Sometimes you don't want to maybe say you go to the store and say I have $15.13. You want to say, I have about $15. So you want to get close to a number that's easier to work with and more familiar to you. Very important, boys and girls. We need to get this place value chart down. It's very important to help you understand rounding. So once again, let's review. All the way to the right is our ones place, then comes our tens place, our hundreds place. If I'm writing a number that has more than 3 digits, I put a comma, and that leads me to my thousands place. Okay, let's review the rounding rhyme that we covered in class today. Forgive me, I know that right now it's like it was more like a little rap that we heard with the music, but let's practice it again. It says, if the number to the right is 4 or less, keep the number the same, oh yes. Let's repeat it again. If the number to the right is 4 or less, keep the number the same, oh yes. Let's go to the next part. If the number to the right is 5 to 9, then move one up on the number line. Again, if the number to the right is 5 to 9, then move one up on the number line. Now there's one more step, boys and girls, to our rhyme and also to rounding. Numbers to the left don't need to change, but the numbers to the right turn to zeros, yeah. Numbers to the left don't need to change, but the numbers to the right turn to zeros, yeah. So we're going to be looking at our first number, boys and girls, rounding to the nearest 10. You're going to see a lot of these in your homework tonight, rounding to the nearest 10s, where it asks you, remember, let's review. This is our ones place, and this has 7 ones, and this has 4 tens, the number 47. So we're going to find our number. First of all, we're going to circle our tens place, whatever number is in the tens place. In this case, it is the number 4. Now let's start our rounding. We're going to look to the right. We always look to the right first, and we see what's the neighbor, what is the friend next to the tens place. In this case, the number 7. And now let's think about our rhyme. Well, our rhyme says 4 or less, we keep the number the same. But as you can see, boys and girls, the number 7 is not 4 or less. It is bigger than 4. So we need to go to the next part of our rhyme. 5 to 9, move one up. So number 7 is definitely 5 to 9, so we're going to move one up. 7 is more, boys and girls, as we saw. So we're going to have to move one up, and so we're going to add 1 to the number 4, and that number 4 plus 1 is 5. So my tens now is going to have a 5 instead of a 4. Okay, and of course my next part of my rhyme says that my numbers to the right turn to zeros. So now that my number has now changed, it's been rounded to the number 5, everything to the right becomes a 0. So that number 7 is gone. So 47, boys and girls, rounded to the nearest tens place is 50. And we could see this on a number line, boys and girls, that the number 47 is a lot closer to the number 50. Now let's try one with the hundreds place. Once again, boys and girls, my ones place, where the 6 is, my tens place has an 8, and now my hundred or my hundreds place has a 9. So we're going to circle that one. We're going to circle the number 9 just to make sure, so we focus on that, we zoom in, and that is our hundreds place. Now we're going to look right next door, and that number to next door is the number 8. We think about our rhyme, boys and girls. Okay? So 4 or less, keep the number the same. So is 8 4 or less? No, it is not, boys and girls. It is not. So we're going to have to go to the next part of our rhyme, which is 5 to 9, move 1 up. So this number 8, boys and girls, it is big. It's 5 or more, or 5 to 9. So we're going to move 1 up. Which one are we going to move 1 up? The number that we circled, or the place that we're looking at, which is our hundreds place. So we're going to add 1 to the number 9. And what's 9 plus 1? That number is 10. And then everything else, according to our rhyme, becomes 0. So this number became 1,000. And it actually looks a little bit strange now that it actually went from 3 digits to 4 digits. But that's what happens in math too. So 986 rounded to the nearest hundreds place is 1,000, boys and girls. We can see that on the number line. Okay? That 986 is a lot closer to 900 than it is to 1,000. Now we're going to try one more. Now we're going to round to the nearest 1,000 place. Ooh. Now this one, it's not that Mr. M is trying to trick you or be mean, but I wrote this big 5-digit number, which is 35,327. But let's look. Let's start all the way in the right, and let's find the thousands place. So we have our ones place, our tens place, our hundreds place, and our thousands place. Now if I kept going, this would be my 10,000s place, but the problem is asking me to look at my thousands place, and that is the number 5. So I'm going to circle my number 5, and I hope that you're following along in your Cornell notes. Now we're going to look to the right, which is my number 3. And now I'm going to think about my rhyme. So 4 or less, keep the number the same. Now boys and girls, is this number 3 4 or less? Yes, it is. So now we're going to keep the number the same. In other words, we're going to keep this number 5. Okay, where it's going to stay a 5. But then also we're not going to forget that everything to the right of that also becomes a 0. Now, don't forget that everything to the left stays the same. So this number, boys and girls, 35,327, the 5 stayed the same, but all the numbers to the right became zeros. Okay, so the answer 35,327 rounded to the nearest thousands is 35,000. You can see this on the number line. That 35,327 is a lot closer to 35,000 than it is to 36,000. Okay? Boys and girls, let's just go over 4 problems in our guided practice section, and then I will give you now the chance to work on your homework on your own. You can always replay the video and just look at the to practice the rhyme and look at examples for each of the places, which is our tens, our hundreds, and our thousands. So 139, boys and girls. Okay, it's asking us to round to the nearest 10 in this problem, so I'm going to circle the 3. Now, maybe you already have the answer, but 130, now that 9, according to our rhyme, is, remember, 5 to 9. Okay, we move on up. We move 1 up on the number line, so that would turn into 140. For 45, boys and girls, I circle my 4. I look at the number 5, which is next door, and that also fits the second part of my rhyme, which is a 5 to 9, move one up on the number line. So that number 4, boys and girls, is going to turn into a 5 because 4 plus 1 is 5, and that would round to a 50 to the nearest 10. 282, boys and girls, it would round. If you look closely, boys and girls, we look at the number to the right. That number is 4 or less, so we stay the same. And yes, if you said it already, it is 280. Last one, boys and girls, the number 9. I look at my neighbor to the right. It follows that it is 7, which means that it is 5 to 9. That means that number 9 has to get 1 added to it. And if that becomes a 10, and then everything to the right becomes a 10 as well, it will be 100. Boys and girls, did we meet our objective and our goals today? Did we practice, and were you able to round numbers to the nearest 10? Yes, we did. We practiced those, and I know that you will have a great time finishing up tonight's homework. Always replay the video if you need any help, and also any questions tomorrow when we do our homework review. To be able to round to the nearest 100, we also covered that today. And our last goal or objective is we were able to round to the nearest 1,000, boys and girls. So I will see you tomorrow. You have a great evening, and you take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.